Good evening and welcome to my end of the week recap video here for the S&P 500 and plan ahead for the rest of the week. Price action for the week so far has still been a little bit choppy. Looks like we might start getting some buyers on the tape here to push price up higher for some more momentum upwards. But first, I want to go here and touch on this historical monthly chart that I do have from Thinkorswim. It goes all the way back to 1993. I ignored these first 2 years because it's just a lot of chop in between. We'll call it 50 excuse me, and 42. So not a lot of price action there to illustrate what I'm about to discuss. But we've all heard the old saying, sell in May and go away. Well, each one of these arrows does denote the month of May in every year. There are 23 months, not counting this current month because we don't know how price action is actually going to add up and finish out for the month or for the year for that matter. So anyways, of these 23, 12 have finished higher and continued higher, 11 of them have actually continued lower. And even if you zoom out all the way, you can see price action, even though it has gone lower some months, has overall continued to make new highs. So just wanted to point out that old adage of sell in May and go away is not always true. And it's more about getting in when you feel comfortable and not necessarily being afraid to buy highs because price action can continue higher, just like it can always continue lower for a beaten down name. Anyways, now I'm going to go over here to the weekly time frame and to the plan that I am looking for and the trades I have taken this week so far. I've closed out the 281 calls here at 20 cents today. Pushed down below the 80 MA, kind of scared me out of the positions. Did see some more volume coming into those calls, so I probably sold at the extreme low of the day, probably even the extreme low of those calls. So such is the case. Sometimes that does happen. I'm not going to let it affect my trading. I'm still going to take the trades that I do like to take and look for some movement up higher. I'm still holding the June 2019 325 calls as well as some August 19th 295 calls here from 19 cents. I'm looking for some movement to go much higher. Want to touch on the weekly time frame over here on the right and just point out a few things. This big W pattern I have here, the measured move is still up here to about 293-ish area. So we'll see if that does carry through. However, I expect to see some consolidation here around 280 to 278 level and consolidation probably around here at the 286 and a half area, somewhere around this region, simply because those are previous peaks. Interesting peak right here to point out as well is the high of this week in April is 271.30, and if we go here to the daily time frame, the almost exact low that we pushed down to today was 271.17. So within 13 cents of that peak right here, I would say that's well within tolerance for a retest of a W pattern. And when these patterns do play out, there's an initial break of this peak, chop around, retest, maybe even consolidate there for a little bit before it does continue higher. Today's candle is a very bullish, what is considered a piercing pattern, basically a gap down after a topping candle that has reclaimed over 50% of that initial move down. I'd say we're well above that 50%, closed on highs, volume confirms there's participation in the trade. Whether it was shorts covering or natural bulls buying, it doesn't matter. There is participation in the trade that confirms that kind of a move. Next level I'll be looking at moving above is this 274.30 area for more shorts to cover if there are any more left in the trade. At that point I will chase with some 274, maybe 275 calls approximately 2 weeks out into the future, looking for a target up here around 280. If we get a $4 or $5 move in one day, that would be absolutely fantastic and I would love to ride that wave. If we get a pullback here to the 8 EMA again, I will look at 272 calls about 3 weeks out in the future. Yellow line down here is the 21 EMA. As always, looking for some 270 calls about 2 weeks out in the future. And further down below is the red line, the 50 SMA. I'd also look for 268 calls about 2 weeks out in the future. Initial price target is going to be this consolidation zone about 268. And based on this daily time frame here, it could be anywhere from 278 to 280. Some consolidation, some sellers maybe trying to pick up on this last sell-off level. Let's see if it gets up there. I'll probably look at taking some profit off, maybe even adding into it on a break above that 280 level. Overall target up here, I've already mentioned, is this 293-ish area for this W pattern. Now, at the sake of having too many notes or too many patterns that I do have on a chart here, this is also what I'm seeing for the daily time frame, is in a nice upward channel that has now created. Probably going to test this upper level here around 275 very, very soon. There is a flag forming that is the right side of this big, huge W pattern, which has a measure move up to around 288 as well, which tests the previous all-time high. So not that I like to throw too many patterns on a chart, but when a lot of bullish patterns do start to add up, it adds even more confidence to my trading, and I will be taking a little bit larger positions into these plays, still managing my risk as I have in the past, and looking for those moves up to these pre-described levels. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. Come join us at the Trade Crew chat room. It is a free chat. Have a good evening and good luck.